Hi everyone, I'm JT Pilot and today I'll be making another video. This time we'll be doing the 24th Jacksonville Fictional Airport. This is the 1 scale model airport day for November of 2022. So today's a pretty jam-packed day over at Jacksonville. Not many new models per se. There's only 2 new models in this airport day just because some came broken from NG, which is pretty unfortunate. But yeah, and I'm waiting on some other models. But this airport day update will still have a good variety of models. Just some models we haven't seen in a while and lots of exciting routes. So today's Airport Day is a jam-packed day just because we're approaching the holiday season because we have just passed Thanksgiving. So I'd like to say a late happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Today's Airport Day we'll start off like per usual. All the aircraft are taxi ground, then we'll go over Terminal 1, Terminal 2, then Terminal 3. Then at the end of the video we'll be having a channel update. So nonetheless, we'll start with the very first aircraft. So starting with the first aircraft here, a Korean Boeing 777-300ER. This aircraft will be heading out to Seoul Incheon, and he is number 1 for takeoff. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft. Here's the beautiful Southwest Canadian Blue Boeing 747-700. I thought an amazing NG model. This has a split skin motors, of course. Cannot wait to get the blended version soon. I will be getting 2 of this from NG. That's going to be very exciting. Can't wait to have this in the next Jacksonville Fictional Airport. I cannot wait for those models. So, this aircraft, he has just arrived in from Orange County, and he'll be heading out to Denver or NBS Aviation's airport. So, really cool subscriber routes. I'd like to thank him for his subscriber routes. So, there's a few subscriber routes in today's airport date. Not many per se, but hopefully next update we'll have some more. So I know a lot of you did fill out the forms. So I do have all the newest form subscribe routes, and I do have a few other ones that others have requested. If you want to subscribe, I'll fill out that form so your route can be featured in this airport update. Or if you want to do one for Southwest Left or Norfolk, or you want to suggest a random mile airport date, which those will return soon, just fill out that form in the description below. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft. Here we United Boeing 747-700. I mean, Dash 800, sorry. That's not 700, a little long for that. Yes, I was still thinking about Southwest. Anyways, this aircraft, he will be heading up to, we'll say Denver for him. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the beautiful Delta Airlines Airbus A321neo. This aircraft will be heading out to Boston Logan National Airport. That felt an amazing NG model. Moving on to our next aircraft here, we North Atlantic Boeing 787-9. This aircraft will be heading out to Oslo in Norway. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the beautiful WestJet 747-800. Yes, that may or may not be a hint to our next airport series on our YouTube channel. Anyways, this aircraft will be heading out to Calgary today. And yeah, or EQ Plains Airport. He does have a subscriber out there, so I'd like to feature that route once again. Moving on to our next one, we haven't seen this aircraft in a while. Here, the old livery Legion Airbus A319-100, that good Gemini Jets model. We'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from South Bend in Indiana, and it'll be heading out to Pittsburgh. So some random Legion routes, that's their kind of thing. So yes, really cool Gemini model there. And yeah, haven't gotten used that model a lot, so I want to use it in today's airport update. Moving on to our next aircraft. Sorry when my camera went off focus. Here at Breeze and we're at ERG 195. So we'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from Akron Canton National Airport and be heading off to Charleston. So that is a new Breeze route, so that's pretty exciting to see over at Jacksonville. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the British Airways Boeing 777-200ER. This aircraft has just arrived in from London Heathrow. We'll be making a return flight out there. So British Airways have returned to Jacksonville using the 777-200. As I say, they have returned to using the 777-200s. This route was mainly on the A350s recently, but now it's down to 777-200s just for the winter season. A little bit slower, so that's why they have downgraded the route to 777. So, yeah, pretty unfortunate. Hopefully, next summer we'll see the A350-1000s again. That would be a great sight to see indeed. But here we have 777-200 nonetheless. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the Air Europa Boeing 787-9. And this aircraft will be heading up to Madrid. So we haven't seen Air Europa in a while, Jacksonville. So you're there once again. So yeah, really cool airline. Yeah, and that's a great JC Wings model. So one of my few JC Wings models in my collection. Moving on to our next one here, the Play Airbus A321neo. And this aircraft will be heading out to Reykjavik, Keflavik. So really cool engine one here. Definitely one of my favorite models right there. Moving on to our next model here, the United Boeing 757-300. What a beautiful model, or the Flying Pencil. This aircraft will be heading out to, we'll send this aircraft out to Chicago O'Hare. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the beautiful Southwest Boeing 747-700. So we'll say this aircraft has just done a flight in from Chicago O'Hare, so that route has returned just for a little bit. And we'll say this aircraft will be heading out to, we'll do, what's the route I'm thinking of? We'll do Long Beach for him. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the beautiful Southwest Boeing 747-700. So we'll say this aircraft has just done a flight in from Chicago O'Hare, so that route has returned just for a little bit. And we'll say this aircraft will be heading out to, we'll do, what's the route I'm thinking of? We'll do Long Beach for him. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the beautiful Air France Service A380-900. This aircraft is touching down from Paris Charles de Gaulle. He'll be making a return flight there. Having used that beautiful Gemini model in a while, so I'm using it in today's airplane. What a beautiful model. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft. Here's the beautiful United Boeing 747-700. So here's our United 747-700. So we'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from Houston George Bush International Airport. You're making a return flight out there. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the JetBlue Airbus A320-200 with the barcode tail. This aircraft will be heading out to, we'll do Los Angeles for him. He's just arrived in from there as well. I haven't gotten to use that model in a while. Moving on to our next aircraft, here the Southwest Boeing 747-800. So we'll say this aircraft has just arrived from Baltimore. Maybe making a return flight out to, we'll do Phoenix Sky Harbor for him. Moving on to our next aircraft here to Japan Airlines, Boeing 787-9. This aircraft has just arrived in from Tokyo Haneda, and we'll be making a return flight out through that. What an amazing NG model. Speaking of NG models, here are the beautiful NG models more to love. Alaska Airlines Airbus A321neo. This aircraft is just arrived in from Seattle Tacoma, and making a return flight out there. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the Sunwing Boeing 747-800. This aircraft has just arrived in from Toronto Pearson, and making a return flight out there. What a beautiful NG model. Haven't been able to use the model in quite a while. Here we have the Gemini Jet's first release, Delta Airlines Airbus A220-100. We'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from New York John F. Kennedy and making a return flight out there. So really, this is just an okay Gemini model. I don't really like the plastic landing gears or the mold too much. So, I'm so grateful to use this model nonetheless. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the Cayman Airways Boeing 747 MAX 8, and this aircraft will be heading out to Grand Cayman. So I haven't used this model in a while, so we're going to use it in today's aircraft. What a beautiful model. I know one guy that really loves this model. It's another Caribbean model, so yeah, he knows who he is. So what a beautiful model there. Moving on to our next model, here the JetBlue Airbus A321 with the balloons tail. So this aircraft has just arrived in from New York John F. Kennedy and making a return flight out there. And moving on to our final taxiing aircraft for now, which is the Lufthansa Airbus A330-300. This aircraft is just arrived in from Frankfurt in Germany and making a return flight out there. So yeah. So that's it for all the aircraft taxi around. Let's move on over to Terminal 1. Alrighty, so moving on over to Terminal 1 over by Jacksonville Fictional Airport, and we're moving on to the United Airlines section. So no new models over in the United Airlines section at least, but United has changed some things up over at Jacksonville. So they have upgraded some routes and they have introduced a few new routes as well. So they have introduced Phoenix and Cleveland onto United Mainline, which is really exciting. So you'll see those routes later on in space. So start with the first aircraft. This United Boeing 747 MAX 8 has arrived in from Houston George Bush International Airport, making a return flight out there. So this route has been upgraded from the A319 up to the 747 MAX 9/MAX 8. So this route's been mainly served on the MAX 9, but some days it's served on the MAX 8 just a substitution. So this has occurred in real life with some United Houston routes. So yeah, so I'm really waiting on Gemini to make a United Eva Blue MAX 9 because I'd definitely buy it. So, but today we'll just be using the MAX 8. So this MAX 8 will be heading up to Houston George Bush International Airport. That was kind of weird pronunciation. Sorry about that. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, the United Airbus A319-100. So this aircraft has just arrived in from Cleveland. We'll be making a return flight out there. So that route has been upgraded from the CRJ550 to United Mainline on the A319, which is really exciting. So once again, this aircraft will be heading out to Cleveland. And this shout out Citrus Aviation. I know he works for Commute Air and he lives over in Cleveland now. So this is a little shout out to him. That is a kind of little cameo to him. So I know he watches these videos. So I like to say hi to Citrus Aviation. So alright, moving on over to our next aircraft here, the United Boeing 747-900ER. So this aircraft has just arrived in from Phoenix Sky Harbor, and you'll be making a return flight out there our Darren Marks Airport. So that is a subscriber, so I'd like to say hello to you, and yeah. And moving on over to our final aircraft, which is the United Boeing 767-300ER. This aircraft will be heading out to Washington, Dallas. So this route has been upgraded from some 747s to the 767 for the winter season. Since a lot of United's wide-body routes to Europe are ending just for the winter seasons, so they'll be using these 767 on some domestic routes. Of course, this is fictional and all, but here it is nonetheless. So this United 767-300 will be heading out to Washington, Dallas. I haven't used this Gemini model in quite a long time, so we'll be using him in today's airport update. Alright, move on to your next model. So here we Finnair was A350-900. This aircraft will be hanging out to Helsinki. What a beautiful engine model. This had included in our airport day. Man, one of my favorite engine models for sure. Moving on over to our next model here with the beautiful engine models Qatar, but in 777-300ER. This aircraft just arrived from Doha and be making a return flight out there. Moving on to our next aircraft here, the American Airbus A321-200. This aircraft is just arrived from Charlotte. Be making a return flight out there. Really wish engine models would make a fin-tip version of this to make this route a little bit more realistic, but just because these Charlotte A320s are mostly based out of Dallas, so yes, but once again, this American A321 will be hanging out to Charlotte. Ooh, what a beautiful model here. Moving on to our next one, here's the highly beautiful Alaska Airlines Star Wars, but in some ways don't change that highly amazing engine model. Besides the QC issues on this model, this is a flawed amazing model. This model came with a broken wing, stabilizer, and missing antenna. I will be getting replacement for this model soon, but I just wanted to feature this model just because it's a beautiful model. I did get to temporarily fix it, but if I were to move this model, that stabilizer would fall out, so pretty unfortunate. So yes, but once again, this aircraft will be heading out to, we'll do Seattle Tacoma for him. Moving on to our next flight here, the American Boeing 747 Junior with the New England logos. This aircraft will be heading out to Dallas-Fort Worth. And the American Eagle Embraer ERJ-175 will be heading out to New York John F. Kennedy. This flight is operated by Republic Airways. That's it for Terminal 1. Let's move on over to Terminal 2. Alright, so moving on over to Terminal 2. So I want to introduce some different camera angles in this video just to make it slightly different. So on the first aircraft. So here we Southwest Boeing 747-700 in the beautiful Colorado 1 livery with the new hardtail. What a beautiful engine model here. What a great model. Definitely one of my favorite models here. Besides the QC issues on this is a great engine model. So, yes, the second and last new model in this day. So only 2 new models, but next month's airport day will have lots of new models. So that's going to be really exciting. But anyway, so this Southwest Colorado 1 747-700, we'll have to say he has arrived in from Colorado Springs. That's fitting because it's a Colorado destination. And we'll say this aircraft, we'll send this aircraft out to, we'll do San Antonio for him. Moving on over to our next aircraft, the beautiful Southwest Boeing 747-800. So this aircraft has just arrived in from Houston Hobby International Airport, and we'll say this aircraft will be heading out to, we'll do Chicago Midway for him. Moving on over to our next Southwest aircraft, the Southwest Boeing 747-700 in the Harley with the blended winglets. This aircraft has just arrived in from, we'll do what's a cool route for him? We'll do New Orleans for him. So this aircraft has arrived in from New Orleans. We'll say this aircraft will be heading out to Columbus in Ohio. And moving on over to our final Southwest aircraft, the Southwest Boeing 747 MAX 8. This aircraft has just arrived in from, we'll do Las Vegas for him, and he'll be heading out to Oakland in California. Alright, moving on to our next aircraft. So here are the Sun Country Boeing 747-800. So this aircraft has just arrived in from Minneapolis, St. Paul. We'll be making a return flight out there. Alright, moving on over to our next model. So here is Spirit Airbus A321-200. This aircraft has just arrived in from Chicago here. We'll be making a return flight out there. Alright, so moving on over to our next aircraft. So here the Frontier Airbus A320neo and the Poppy the Prairie Dog livery. So we'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from Cancun and we'll be making a return flight out there. Moving on over to our next aircraft. Here the beautiful Legion Airbus A320 with the Sharklets, of course, in the new livery. This aircraft will say he has just arrived in from, we'll do Charlotte Concord, and he'll be making a return flight out to Richmond. Moving on over to our next aircraft here, the JetBlue Airbus A320 in the Spotlight Tail. We'll say this aircraft has just arrived in from, we'll do Boston Logan National Airport, and we'll be making a return flight out there. And moving on over to our final aircraft, this Breeze Airways Airbus A220 Stranger has just arrived in from Norfolk in Virginia. We'll say this aircraft will be hanging out to Long Island, Iceland. Alright, so moving on over to Terminal 3, our last terminal in this airport day, unfortunately. So start with the first aircraft. Very Delta Connection Bombardier CRJ-900. So this aircraft has just arrived in from Cincinnati. We'll be making a return flight out there. So that Delta route has been going pretty strong. And that's an Endeavor flight, by the way. Moving on over to our next aircraft, the beautiful Delta Boeing 747-800. This aircraft has just arrived in from Salt Lake City and we'll be making a return flight out there. Moving on over to our next aircraft, the Delta Airbus A321-800. This aircraft just arrived in from Detroit Metropolitan International Airport and making a return flight out there. And moving on over to our next aircraft, the Delta Boeing 757-200. This aircraft has just arrived in from Atlanta and be making a return flight out there, or Citrus Aviation's airport. I'd like to thank him so much for using my subscriber route in his Atlanta, and for my Jacksonville route and for my Norfolk route. I'd like to applaud him for that. So thank you, Citrus, for that. And moving on over to our next aircraft here, a Delta Airbus A319-100. This aircraft will begin service by GSA shortly as they're pulling into the gate. And this aircraft has, so this aircraft will say he'll be heading out to, we'll say, what's a good route for him? I forgot. Sorry, I forgot this route for a second. We'll say this aircraft will be heading out to Raleigh-Durham, so that is a new Delta A319 route. That route used to be on 717s and CRJ900s, now it's on mainland, so really exciting there. Once again, this aircraft will be heading out to Raleigh-Durham or Citrus Aviation's airport. Alrighty, moving on over to our next aircraft. Here we Delta 747-9GR. This aircraft just taxied out the gate, and he'll be heading out to Los Angeles. Alright, moving on over to our next aircraft. So here with the beautiful Aviation 400 Delta Airbus A350-900. This aircraft will be heading out to, we'll say this aircraft will be heading out to Amsterdam Schiphol International Airport. What a beautiful model here. Alright, moving on over to our next one. Here the highly beautiful Aviation 400 Virgin Atlantic Airbus A350-1000. This aircraft is just riding from Manchester, United Kingdom, and making a return flight out there. What a great Virgin Atlantic route here. Alright, moving on over to our next aircraft. This Viva Airbus A320-200 is riding in from Mexico City. And be heading out to and then he'll be returning out to Monterrey in Mexico. Alright, moving on over to our next aircraft. Here the Edelweiss Airbus A480-300. This aircraft will be heading out to Zurich. Moving on over to our next aircraft. Here the Air Canada Rouge Airbus A321-200. This aircraft will be heading out to Toronto Pearson. He has just arrived in from there. Moving on over to our next aircraft. Here the Flair Boeing 747-800. This aircraft has just arrived from Kitchener-Waterloo. We'll be making a return flight out there. Hopefully not going off the runway. That's pretty unfortunate. That did happen a couple of days ago where a Flair 747-800 overran the runway over at Kitchener-Waterloo. Yes, it wasn't this NG registration. It was a different registration. I believe CFFLC, I believe. Something like that. But anyways, this aircraft, once again, will be heading out to Kitchener-Waterloo, and hopefully the pilots are careful on that approach. And moving on over to our final aircraft in today's airport day, which is the Aeromexico Boeing 747-800. This aircraft is just riding from Mexico City and be making a return flight out there. And alright folks, so this concludes airport update. This was the 24th airport date for my Jacksonville Fictional Airport, and this was for November of 2022. So that's it for today's airport update. So a pretty quick airport update for you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the different camera angles and overall the pace of this video. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that, and leave comments below about your thoughts of this video. And yeah, so November is almost over with, and we're about to go into the last month of 2022, which is insane to say. So yes, so I do have some announcements for Jacksonville. One announcement is we'll be getting a brand new airline at Jacksonville soon, which is Avelo Airlines at long last. Yes, because Gemini has finally released an Avelo 747, not NG, but Gemini Jets. I do have that model on pre-order. One of the few Gemini pre-orders I made recently. I cannot wait to get that model. And yeah, so Avelo will be flying from Jacksonville. I will announce their destination soon. It'll be interesting to see what routes they'll create over at Jacksonville. So yeah. And yeah, so we'll be getting some new airlines soon at Jacksonville as well, like LATAM Airlines. And yeah, so that's another new airline that'll be coming over to Jacksonville soon, and Caribbean Airlines. And yeah, so stay tuned for the December update. There's going to be lots of exciting models in the December update, so just stay tuned. And the December update should be after Christmas if everything goes to plan. So yeah, that's going to be a fun update. So in December, we'll be having our South Jacksonville Fictional Airport. I know a lot of you have been asking about that. Yes, we'll have another update then. And we should be having a brand new model airport. And I'll make that announcement soon. So it's going to be a fun airport day. It's going to be different than all the other airport dates I've done on my YouTube channel. So that's going to be very exciting. So yeah. And in December, we'll be having Massive Unboxing 6, which should have a lot of new engine models and models that will be useful for my upcoming airports. So that's going to be exciting. And the new model airport should premiere around Christmas Eve. So that might be another hint to what the airport is. But it will be a new model airport, and I cannot wait to do that airport. Yes. And it'll likely be another fictional airport. Maybe fictional, maybe realistic. I'm not going to tell you guys yet, but I just want to leave some hints. So yes. And getting off subject, funny how the Alaska lost its stabilizer right there. Yes, I told you that model would break this vein, it did. So yeah. So that's perfect. Yeah, so that's a perfect segue into our next topic, which is NG's broken models. So the last NG batch, which was the NG October batch, I received 3 out of the 4 of the models broken. So that's, and yeah, it was, the Alaska came broken, the Sun Country came broken, and Colorado 1 came broken. Luckily, I fixed Colorado 1, but the other 2 came broken, and I should be getting replacements for those models soon, which will be featured in Massive Unboxing 6. So I just want to mention that. But I didn't include the Alaska because why the heck not? It's, at least it's presentable. The Sun Country is not presentable, so yes, this is pretty unfortunate about the QC issues with models. So yes, and yeah, so that is the channel update. So I'm JT Pilot. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching this video, and have a wonderful day and have a wonderful week. Bye.